from Holland. She said, and in my early 30s, I really saw that wanted to leave Holland and gave up my job, gave up my apartment, gave up sort of everything, and had this strong feeling that I should leave and leave for some time. I was thinking a year, 2 years. Little did I know what it was going to turn out to be, but I left Holland for India. So I wanted to choose a country that had a different culture than Holland. India certainly does. I didn't have anything with spirituality then yet, other than that I had my own sort of hedonistic worldview, follow as little as possible that would sort of get me there. Yeah, so when I was in India for 5 months, I been trooped around India. I had respect for the traditions and for what I saw, and I visited many temples. However, I did not really want to take it up as a path. And even though people would tell me about the path and would tell me what I should do and things like that, me until Thailand. So I went to India 5 months, 2 months. And in Thailand, I really had this turning point where I thought, something's not right. Here I am with enough money in my pocket to stay away for, maybe 2 years if I watch my budget. And got enough friends around me, I've been places, I can do this thing called traveling, that I feel empty and unhappy. And I literally wrote it down in my diary at a place called Lovely Beach, in some small beach in an island in Thailand. And in one of these bamboo huts, like 3 meters away from the ocean. I thought, how is this possible? I'm doing what everybody wants to do, still I'm like unhappy. And anyway, from then on, more spirituality started coming in my life. Then I came to Australia in July 2002, Darwin. I was still kind of thinking like, the looser I live, the better I will travel in a combi van and do my stuff. But sort of in that journey, I started to do a little bit of yoga. I started to come across books like Conversations with God and things like that. And I started to see that there was something or someone that sort of saw me and things in my place, in my path, books, videos, or movies, or people, be thinking of something, and then I'd meet someone, we would speak about that topic, what they call synchronicity. I started to wonder about that. And then in Sydney in May 2003, I really had enough of the just, traveling thing, sort of, moving from place to place and to introduce yourself everywhere and chasing women and chasing marijuana, things like that. It didn't do it for me anymore. So I had a sincere prayer then, one of my most sincere prayers ever, where I asked God, if you're there, I'm starting to believe you're there, starting to observe, let me meet someone or some people who can tell me about you. Because I know myself, I'll be dismissive of someone who just comes at me with a Bible or something. Someone tells me I'm going to hell if I don't follow this or that. Nothing with Jesus to do, but with some people's approaches. I asked God for a very specific list of qualities that person or those people should have. A bit arrogant, perhaps, but I put things on there like they should be much smarter than me, especially about spiritual subjects. I don't talk back. They should keep my interest so that I don't walk away from them. They should, they can challenge me. They can really challenge me, but do it in such a way that I will walk away and become offended. While I was making that list in my prayer meaning just sort of talking to God, you might say, and I thought, gee, that's specific. You really seem to know that A, God exists, and B, that you know who you want to meet. And lo and behold, 2 hours later on Bondi Beach, met a person, and he was just that, he ticked all those boxes. Got to talk, and he challenged me from the beginning, and he just started talking to me about where I was, karma, reincarnation, the soul versus the body, etc., etc. And, like half an hour in, I said, how do you know all this? Like, you're a professor, or what are you? No, I'm a Hare Krishna. Wow. Did they teach you all of this? I said, yeah, it's just the beginning. Point me to the temple, he said, there's a Sunday feast or Sunday afternoon. So you coming? I said, yeah, I'll come. No problem. I was planning to go to the pub and get drunk, but hey, I can always do that afterwards. He said, no problem. I can drop you at any pub you want after you come with me. Sure. So I went with him and went to the Krishna temple in North Sydney, and there was the Sunday feast. So I saw wild dancing in front of the altar, in front of God. Oh, this is fantastic. So lively, they're so into it. And so many. And then the food came around, the Sunday feast style, buckets of curry, buckets of rice. It was all a bit wild for me. I liked it. I really liked it. And I really could feel that there was something really special for me there. Of course, I couldn't fully explain it sort of rationally, but I really felt home. I really felt that. I also felt this is what I was praying for. That's what I wanted to say, that I recognized that this person, Guru Shakti was his name, he was that person I asked God for. And I thought, it's so amazing that I think God listened to me. He sent me that person, or he sent me to that person. Was all these things. So smart, challenging me, so funny at the same time. And I really appreciated it. And the rest is kind of history. A week later, I packed my bags and moved them to the ashram. That was it. That's like 20 plus years ago now.
There's a lot there I wanna ask you. If I can just take it back, you mentioned that originally you went to India. So I'm just wondering if there was any, because you mentioned that in Thailand was when you kind of the heart started to churn. So I was just wondering if you had any profound spiritual experiences in India itself, or whether it was just more of a cultural journey. Like, did India have any real impact on you?
Funny, when I left Holland, I used to go swimming. There used to be a man at the swimming pool more or less every day. He's retired, really interesting man. And he said, when I announced that I was leaving, he said, do some meditation in India, do some yoga and meditation. Don't spend all your time, doing what you want to do, which is kissing women and smoking dope. I said, yeah, maybe. I heard him. He was a very interesting man. I didn't take it too serious. And then there was a number of incidents that happened. I'll tell them. I went to the Hollywood studios in Bombay. Left the big Bollywood studios, Bollywood. And, being a Westerner, being a little bit talkative. At some point, I was sitting at one of the managers or directors' office. This guy that brought me there, So I asked if I could be an extra in one of the Bollywood movies. It's not so hard in an Indian country as a Westerner to talk yourself into places. I sat there with this man, and he said, what can I do for you? I said, I'd like to be an extra in one of your movies. He looked at me, why? Oh, that would be cool. He looked at me a bit dismissive, and he said, why? I said, well, I'm in India. Come on, it's fantastic. He said, big deal. Sort of, I'm paraphrasing him. I think he said big deal, but he said, it's not what you're here for. That's not what India has to give you. India has to give you a culture of yoga, spirituality. Please look into that. He said, I can give you an extra tomorrow, but I'm not very interested in doing that for you. I looked at him really liking it. People speak to me like that, And there was more instances like that in Varanasi. I was going with a cycle rickshaw, the street, one of my Israeli friends. And the guy literally came running next to our rickshaw, and he was yelling at us. He's yelling, you're wasting your life. You're wasting your time. you know. And my Israeli friend, he didn't appreciate it. He was swearing at the guy. I said, don't do that. This guy's got something to say. And I stopped the recycling rickshaw and I said, please tell me. And he said, you're wasting your time just doing what you're doing here. Do something. He also, he probably also mentioned yoga and meditation. So there were people hinting me. I was too wild, too romantic. I didn't really, apart from, I do remember being in temples and chanting. I wasn't serious about any of that. It only came when my heart started saying, there's something missing.
Yeah, it's interesting because you were mentioning how in Thailand, that's when it really started to sink in. But see, Thailand, I much like Thailand. I think I went in 2018, really last year. Thailand's a very beautiful place. It's kind of like similar kind of energy to India in the sense like, people are religious, they're spiritual. There's a lot of, people go there for spirituality. It's very beautiful. It's almost like I don't know if I can say like a clean India, but it's fun because I also have this like experience being in Thailand and being in like really beautiful places, really beautiful beaches. And then, but kind of also like, so last few years I'm living in Mayapur, which most of us are familiar with, is a very like spiritual, holy place. Like for Bhakti Yogis, they're living there. It's the birthplace of Kirtan. So I remember like also being a really beautiful place and just missing this, like just something, okay, like you kind of made it to the top of the world, but at the same time, something's missing. And even the last trip, we went with my wife and two of our friends, her cousin. We went to these Fifi Islands, and in Fifi Islands, they have this place called Maya Bay. And there's one famous movie, Leonardo DiCaprio called The Beach, where they filmed that.
Right.
So this Maya Bay is like literally the most beautiful place I ever saw in my whole life. I cannot believe how pretty this place was. And you're only allowed to be there for like 45 minutes or so. But I was so happy to be there. And I was so happy to be there because it's called Maya Bay. In Sanskrit, literally means that which is not. Maya, that which is not. Which means illusion. And I was just thinking, Krishna, you're so funny. The most beautiful place in the world, the most beautiful place I ever went. And you're telling me in the name, the official name is like illusion. So I was really grateful for that. And I was really grateful how we get these, like you also mentioned, the synchronicities. How, in your life, you're having these synchronicities. And I was also appreciating that point because I kind of live for these kind of wow moments where like something really comes down in your life and touches you and connects with you. And it's really like inspiring. And I was also thinking on this, how you were talking about like you met this Guru Shakti and he was the one who really like kind of wowed you. But then I was also this progression, like you met this the guy in the swimming pool. He kind of also said something to you. You met this guy on the cycle rickshaw. He kind of said something. Yeah. And then you met Guru Shakti. So you can see this kind of these waves of influence coming. And then also like Guru Shakti. Someone is making some this. You'll have to I just muted everyone, so you'll have to unmute yourself again, Padma. But Guru Shakti, like, it's interesting because Guru is one who's like engaging us in spiritual life. Guru is one who's bringing us to Krishna. Guru is the one who's like, teaching us how to connect with love supreme, with the divine Krishna. This is the role of Guru. The devotee that you met, his name is Guru Shakti. So it's just another little like.
Definitely. The other thing which was very interesting is again like, and this is what I love about Krishna. And no, I can't say that perhaps as a scientific thing, and I won't say it as a hard proof, but what happened was the day before because he was one of the people that would go out raise funds for the Food for Life charity, Feeding Sydney's Hungry. There were about 5 or 6 of them that would go out with buckets in those days and would collect donations for Food for Life. They had a meeting with all of these, and because what was happening was that there was not much interest coming, especially from Western background people, in the Krishna conscious process.
Mm.
As you know, and as others have known, that go to temples, the influx of the Indian population was increasing. Now, nothing wrong with that, and it is the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and it is a universal spiritual process. So we have to make an endeavor to reach everyone, reach different people. So they had a meeting with these people that would go out on the street and collect. And they would say, look out for those people that might have an interest. They are out there. They are out there. Look out for them. Try to talk to them. Try to see if you can bring them to the temple. Because, they are missing out. We're missing out. To just convert people. But, we know the benefit of the process. And it's our mission, basically, and our mandate to do something with that. So he had really put that into his mind and heart, and he was looking out for people. And there was I. I was looking for him. You know it, because I just had a prayer. God, Krishna, I just put it together. That I found so amazing, these arrangements.
It's interesting that also you had the intuition to pray, because I think in my spiritual life, I didn't, because I was kind of having the understanding before I was practicing Krishna consciousness that, what would we understand now as Brahman? Like, I was kind of having this understanding that I'm you, you're me, we're all one, we're all the same consciousness. So I never had this intuition to pray. Like, definitely I was seeking for truth, I was seeking for answers, but I found it interesting how you had the intuition to pray, and not only to pray, but to pray very specifically. You had a very specific prayer. And I think that kind of attention to detail, it gets a lot of reciprocation, actually. Like, sometimes you pray like, oh, please, help me be happy, or please, like, help me be better, or help me be good. You had a very kind of, you put out there something very specific, and I found that quite interesting and noteworthy and kind of nice, actually. Like, well done to you.
For me, it was also clear that could start to see that there was a higher hand in life, and that higher hand is not me. I could see that would be something, or actually sounds like it would be someone. For me, it was kind of like, because it has to be personal, because I could see that I would be reading about something, and I would meet a person that could tell me more about that. Who else than a person can do that? The energy can't really do that, because an energy is impersonal. It's like neutral. So even though I couldn't articulate it clearly, I sensed that it would be a person that does all these things. Now, I don't want to claim that I know that person now, and I have a direct line with that person necessarily. I still believe and understand that it is a person, and I'm very happy that it's a person, actually, and that person is not me.
Yeah, I think when I first started practicing and then also being introduced to that concept, I was at a similar stage where, I cannot really like put my fist down and say like, yes, I know I have to answer, but I was very grateful that there was a personality there, at least the concept of a personality, because it made it more easy to connect. It was very nice to have personality behind that. I mean, it also reminded you mentioned when you first went to the temple with Guru Shakti that there were many people there. They were dancing, there was kirtan, and it was kind of inspiring. But then also you mentioned like the prasad. It was also a little bit wild. I was wondering about your first, because like right now I'm in London, in Soho. I'm living in a temple, and sometimes I'm also like, wow, like, Hare Krishna people are really, they can be very wild, actually. dancing and this, and I was wondering experience, and then even now, sometimes I wonder, like, I can see that it's very beautiful. It's a very serious practice. It's very, and the people that are in it and committed, I can just, like, my respects to them. I feel like as a spiritual program, it's just rocket boosters. But I was just wondering, maybe a little bit more about your first meeting with the Hare Krishna people in North Sydney, how it was, if it was not scary, if it was weird, if it was how it was. Yeah.
Well, I was ready, and I found it what we call austere, because on that first night, that continued with was a question and answers, and that question and answers, Padmanabha, who was the temple president, he did the question and answer, and he asked everybody, "What time do you all get up?" So, and even though I wanted to know God, I had no inclination to get up early in the morning. I was going to bed late, and I couldn't see how that would even be important. So, people were saying like 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, things like that. And he looked at me and he said, "What time do you get up?" I said, "About midday." They said, "You're wasting your time. You're wasting your life." And I said, "Why?" "You should get up at 4 o'clock. So then I go to bed at 4 o'clock. I knew I was a bit braggish towards him. Yeah, that was my reality. I would go, I would hang out at all hours and talk to all sorts of people wherever I was. It's always been my sort of a style. You put me in New York and I'm just talking to everybody, day and night. And still, I could see that he was making a point. And but then, so a week later, I packed my bags and moved in and started following. So then I had to get up at 4 o'clock. That was tough.
And straight into the temple, pretty much. You met there,
yeah.
And there, and you just like how
did that a backpacking? Just had a backpack, what else? There wasn't much to give up.
How was that? Just one day a backpacker, one day a monk.
That's it. Yeah, I guess I'm a little bit of a black and white kind of person. And I was ready. I wanted it. So moved into the temple and lived in the ashram. And, I survived. It's a bit rough and tumble. You share a room with 2 or 3 others. Everybody gets up. And it's very joyful. The thing is, it's very joyful because you're all doing the same thing. You seem in that zone of like spiritual conversation, amazing topics. You have swamis coming by and they tell they give amazing lectures, and your mind just pops left, right, and center. And which I'm extremely grateful. And it's the best thing I've ever done. And I do also believe that as a movement, as an organization, we can also learn and pay a bit more attention to what the humans need. Because we're not, I like to say we're humans on the spiritual path. Even though the path is transcendental and pure, we are not. We're handicapped and sometimes crippled, and we have all kind of hang-ups and baggage. And as individuals and as collective, we should deal with those. So, yeah, that's kind of like, I'm not sure if you're asking that. But yeah, in most ways, those first months in the temple and the ashram, they were an adventure. No, they were a big adventure.
Yeah, I like this point about humans on the spiritual path. But, it's like, in one sense, if we're reading Bhagavad Gita, we see the very first lesson Krishna teaches to Arjuna is that you're not the body, you're the soul. Therefore, the tendency in Bhakti Yogi is to, I wouldn't say neglect the body, but I don't know a better way to describe it. It seems like many times we don't give so, and I'm not saying this is the correct philosophical understanding, but many times we don't give so much importance to the body or to material things. I mean, now the situation is a little bit different, but I know when I first started practicing Krishna consciousness, then I had the tendency even to like think, oh, my family is temporary, the relationships is not so important. Like the kind of human side become very much reduced. And it took me 5 or 6 years to really kind of, at least now, and again, I'm not saying this is the correct philosophical understanding, but to actually put emphasis on those relationships, to put emphasis like, yes, I am in the world, I have to deal with the world, I can't run away from it, I can't reject it. So I was wondering if you would be able to share some realizations on this point about humans on the spiritual path.
Well, remember that song, Fragile? How fragile we are? Famous song by Sting. Well, what we see is that many people who sort of joined the spiritual path and they started, they go hard for some time, could be months, could be years, but eventually many of them crash, many of them drop out, fall off. Then they might fall off completely and be resentful and lose the spiritual path. Just sad, because it's meant to be a lifelong journey. And because we are not on that, we are not really on that level that we read about in the scriptures. Yet, we're trying to get there. We're doing our best, and certainly enthusiasm and dedication and fixing ourselves on that certainly helps. And we also, in my opinion and observation, we need to stay realistic, because otherwise it can turn into like a wishful thinking, hope against hope. We even see that sometimes people fall back into habits that are not, so pure, not so clean. They feel guilty about that, and they leave because of that. They do all kind of stuff behind closed doors that it's not so pretty. Why would we torture ourselves like that? While we could have a bit more of a balanced approach. And Krishna does speak about it in the Bhagavad Gita as well. Like, if you can't do this, then do that. If you can't do this, then do that. He's not saying like it's only this. It's only full surrender counts. The endeavor of this path is there's no loss of diminution. Any endeavor on this path is beneficial. So now, on the other hand, if it suits someone to go hard and to stick with it, and they can stick with it, all the best. That's great. If it works for you, why not? I don't think we should stop people either. But I think we should have systems in place, like mental systems, body systems, that can keep just keep the human side in perspective. And if somebody wants to stay single and celibate and can handle that, right? I think it should always exist, that option, like for men and for women, it should always exist. We should check, like, is it real? Or is it artificial? Is it forced? How are you doing? Then it can work well. But in general, most people, they need a more gradual approach, and an approach also which keeps them enthused on the road.
Yeah, I don't wanna risk like going into so much this specific topic, but it's very interesting to speak about, and I feel like we would have a lot of, and especially you would have a lot of realizations to share. So I'm just gonna play with it, and I hope I don't derail the whole thing too much. But just based on my own experience, like, I practice, you're talking about celibacy and being a monk, like brahmacharya we call.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, so I was for 6 years as a monk, and I think you were much longer than that. And then I found that when I decided or realized that it's not really flowing for me, I did find that there wasn't a lot of support actually from like the Hare Krishna. And I do see you also mentioning like some people they kind of fall through the cracks or they go back into bad habits and this. I don't want to derail the whole thing on this one topic, but I think maybe you would have some further little realizations about this. Like, not that I want to make a plan right now how we can restructure the whole Krishna consciousnness movement, but just I think everyone on this chat, they have some exposure to Krishna consciousness. No one here is their first time meeting us. I know every single one of you that I'm seeing on the chat. So I think this is meant for all of us. So if you had any, more that you would want to share with this, and maybe this also ties into some of the points I wanted to discuss with you, like, engaging your individuality, your personality in Krishna consciousness, and also the things that you received and got from practicing Bhakti Yoga. So maybe we can tie it all together into one thing.
Like I said, it's an individual choice. I had 12 years as brahmachari.
12 years, wow.
8 years successful, 4 years with. Now then, I also started to see some kind of cracks in my consciousness and my behavior, and that went through that period myself where I was a bit confused. What should I do? Should I keep on maintaining this, or should I give this up? Because not that I was happily sort of. Anyway, I don't want to get into the details, but I wasn't completely celibate in my faults and of my habits anymore. And so then, I gave that up. Lucky I did get a fair bit of support. I also entered a relationship then. And it all went, reasonably well. It's a very personal path. I just would like to encourage everyone to be real, to be honest with themselves. And some artists don't have to hang your whole personal life onto a social media tree, so to say. Be honest with some people around you that trust you and that you trust, that can give you feedback. So you kind of keep it real. And if you want to ask me, I find that Krishna and the devotees also appreciate that.
Yeah, I think that's why, there's a lot of stress, at least in the teachings, on having these loving exchanges amongst devotees.
It's friendships.
Yeah, this, being able to reveal your mind in confidence, and then again, being able to tell people like this is very important. But it's not always easy to find these kinds of relationships. So I'm not sure if I can say, but for all the people listening here, if you feel inspired in this association, then Padman, he's here. I'm also here. We're trying to create this system of, support and this kind of give an opportunity for these loving interactions and opportunities to share and express amongst those who are practicing Krishna consciousness, aspiring to be devotees and practice Bhakti Yoga. So on this point, do you have any more realizations or reflections like that? Now it's been 21 years. 21 years you're practicing Krishna consciousness. There's been ups and downs, which is a whole also opportunity of conversation. But do you have any things that come fresh in your mind that you really received from spiritual practice? 21 years. For me, it's almost 10 years now, or it's 9 years I'm practicing Krishna consciousness. And I remember 2 or 3 years in and thinking, or even 1 year in, and think to be practicing for 9 years seems impossible or so far away, and yet here I am. And I've received so many things, but then it seems like there's also so far to go. So in the same situation, how is it where you're at, your realizations, your reflections from being on the spiritual path, and maintaining or trying to maintain a daily practice? Like how is what have you received? Give us some inspiration. Also, we can also 21 years continue. And 21 years more.
Yeah, definitely. Where do I begin? I'm an enthusiasm guy. I'm a guy that runs on enthusiasm and inspiration and on relationships as well. Also a little bit on surrender and austerity. Don't mind being a bit sort of tough on myself. Sort of giving myself and giving a bit more than I actually would want to. And giving that extra mile sort of thing. That's how I sort of like operate. Not much of a scholar, unfortunately, in some ways. I do believe that I understand the basics of Krishna consciousness and how I'm trying to live by those basic principles. And I can also, I'm not a great scholar that knows many verses and knows half the Bhagavad Gita by heart. I do want to see now, because now I'm past 50 in this body, that I need to start really giving attention to that, because otherwise it stays, that what you don't put attention in stays more or less the same. Krishna gives you realizations from different angles. That's very wonderful. However, we also should do an endeavor into reading the scriptures and to listen to classes and there's of course such a variety of practice available. Now, what I'm really inspired by is that it never gets boring. It never, out of them never getting boring, it does actually they stay fresh and new and adventurous for me. So 21 years sounds like a long time, but that story that I just said about Thailand and joining them 21 years ago is, I can call it like that. And yes, it's a relatively short time, I feel. What I also really like is that this one of the topics we want to talk about is how personal Krishna tries to engage you. Like in my personal example, I find that what I can do is what I am engaged in. So, and what I'm not so good at, sometimes I might have to do it. Sometimes you have to do the needful. However, it becomes more and more a tailor-made service, a tailor-made sort of package that you can work with. And it deepens as well. I mean, if you keep on chanting, if you keep on practicing, it deepens and it deepens. If you stop practicing, then I'm going to stop practicing, so I don't know what the result is, but think that then Maya, that which is not, that energy will take over again. I've certainly had periods in which I was, covered more by that energy. There's energies at work in this world. It is the energy of ignorance, passion, and goodness. They're energies that and they are observable in the world. We can be subjected to them. Maya is also, the material energy. We can, if we hang around long enough and more, we're going to be affected by everything there. Unless we're praying not to be affected. It's just a given. Bondi Beach or whatever it is. But that there are ways and means, tools and techniques by which we can counteract these things. I find it so inspiring.
It just triggered a memory. It was either last night or the night before. I was just about to sleep. It was maybe 9:30 at night. And then here in London, they have these bicycle rickshaws that are all covered in furry, rainbow pink colors and stuff. And then they drive tourists around and they play really loud music. And I remember I was reading, falling asleep, and then one drove past playing music really loud. And it just triggered all these things in my mind. And I was also reflecting, material energy is creeping. Like I was reading Bhagavatam, like I was reading scripture, about to fall asleep, and then this sound vibration just triggered so much. My mind becomes super activated and all these memories and this and that. So this was a very short, this was just 10 seconds. So I can imagine, point is material energy is very strong. Material energy is very strong. There was also one thing when you speak, I want to reflect on. You mentioned how your experience of Krishna consciousness has been very personal, and then you find yourself being engaged according, okay, we have to do the needful, but pretty much you're being engaged according to the things that you like to do and you're good at. And I have a similar experience most of the time. So my question is, do you have anything to say to those people who have doubts, but that they want to practice Krishna consciousness, but they are, doing some work which maybe they don't know if it's their dharma, they don't know if it's their nature, they don't know if it's pleasing to Krishna. Maybe you could speak something about this, like for those people who have this doubt, they don't know what's their calling.
Well, yeah, we always, the soul is always active and we are always active. We're going to be engaged in some way or the other. If we have to get a job, Bunnings or somewhere, we're going to be engaged according to the Bunnings energies and policies. It's the given. Well, that might be necessary for us to maintain ourselves. That's okay. And in Krishna consciousness, we're also going to be engaged. We're going to be, some ways, if you can boil water, then the next day you're the head chef, and if you can count to 10, then you're the accountant or the treasurer. And that's how it was in the old days of the Krishna conscious movement. Of course, now we try to be more specific and look at people's qualities, and we have many wonderful people join us that can make videos and can make music, and etc., etc. It's also a mix. But sometimes it's good to do the needful, and it's good to do what's difficult for us. It's difficult for us to surrender and to be humble, maybe. It's not bad to clean the temple for a number of months. It really humbles you. And you might also discover some qualities there. Like, personally, I'm not a great cleaner when it comes to just it's my own room or my own car. But when it comes to just like systematic cleaning, like you clean a public toilet or something, you use this mop and you do that, I quite like it. I like it because I know exactly what I need to do, and I need to start here and finish there. And I quite often do these things, cleaning the kitchen so this is not my dharma, I believe, but it does teach me something. Not humility, it also teaches me some systems or some systematic way of doing things. So again, it's a very personal thing, and sort of depending on also which temple that you are, there may be some devotees that are here that already living in ashrams, they might have a different experience where they are really kind of being told what to do. Like I don't want to make it seem like this is the right way of doing it and this is a wrong way of doing it. It feels good, but it's not unreasonable what's expected of you, or not some way really detrimental, then I'll not go with it. Like if you, for example, we call a Sankirtan devotee who goes out on book distribution, for example, and that is difficult for you. You learn tremendous things from that, about yourself, about world. Nothing teaches you so much to stand in the middle of Sydney or in the middle of London and try to stop people to take a book. It teaches you a lot. So I not have that experience. On the other hand, hey, if you're a bit of an entrepreneur, why not open a bookshop for Krishna? Now, think outside the box. Like, our mutual spiritual teacher, he used to emphasize, think outside the box. Like if you can make a video game about Krishna and it actually involves the philosophy and it works, why not? Doesn't have to be always the traditional kind of approach. For example, Buddhism. We think distribution is a holy cow, and it is. What if I open a bookshop for Krishna in the middle of London? It's cool. Or, what if I organize, one devotee in Australia was organizing Bhagavad Gitas to go into motel rooms instead of Bibles or next to the Bibles. It's cool.
Yeah.
So, I also hope that the movement grows in this approach to allow people to be. It's not that the qualities that you come in with, they're wrong. You give them up. Unless you're a completely angry and envious person, you might have to leave that behind the building. You know what I mean? Like if you're an entrepreneurial person, why not use that quality in Krishna's service? If you're a mechanic, why not fix Krishna's car? Fix cars of the temple. If you're a student kind of person, study the scriptures, start giving classes. Do blogs.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I do see this coming more now into the practice of like Krishna consciousness. And I do think there's a certain amount of merit to someone who just, give up everything and do only, following in the footsteps of those great renunciates and, only Nam Seva, chanting Hare Krishna, meditation, and I think that has a lot of merit, but that's not the path. Most people are not able to do this. And therefore, my next question and my final question, because it's been almost an hour, and I would like to just say, if anyone does have anything they want to ask after this, I'm going to stop. I'm going to keep quiet and hand it over to you guys, or you can write in the chat. My last question was, do you have any advice for those who are struggling? Just people who want to be devotees, but they can't. They want to be happy with that they're not. They want to chant, but they aren't. Just the struggling spiritualist, the struggling bhakta.
Hello. Advice would be, keep trying. Reveal your heart to someone that you trust, someone that can help you. Seek the company of those that you can do this practice with. For example, if you find it difficult to focus on your chanting, see if you can meet up with someone. You make the agreement. We both leave our phones off. We don't chat before we have finished our 4 rounds or whatever we try to set as a standard. Then we chat. For example, or let's read Bhagavad Gita together. Follow an online Bhagavad Gita course. So much available. There's so many different teachers that do all their lectures online. YouTube is full of them. Why would we stop? If we want to practice this, why would we stop if the one example of how we try to follow doesn't work? Maybe we need to tweak it a bit, and we need to look for a teacher who really inspires us and follow their lectures. And also, tell Krishna about your struggles. Seems to work. Just tell him that you want to, but you can't. Work for me.
Yeah, there's so many things we can speak. I feel like it can keep going on. I can keep asking, refining, but yeah, we're getting, time is going. So Nick, you want to say something? You cannot speak. It's yours. The floor is. But you're on mute. You have to unmute.
Hare Krishna. Nice to meet you, Padma. How you doing?
With you.
Good. Just wanted to say hello, and thanks for coming on. I actually joined in Australia as well in the late 90s, and tried to kind of leap to the highest platform. And I sort of told my story to Guru a little bit. But I think one thing I just wanted to bring up about what you were previously talking about is that, as far as I understand from the Bhagavad Gita, like, you kind of, we're sort of presented with a dichotomy between being an absolute materialist or otherwise rejecting it all and becoming a complete spiritualist. But the reality is we have to manage both sides of our life and both sides of our sort of psychology. Otherwise, it doesn't become sustainable. That's what I've been learning over the last 20 odd years myself, that, you know, we can think, oh, materialism is causing so many troubles, therefore I'll reject that. And then we kind of go all the way across to, okay, full spirituality. And then, you know, we struggle with that. But, you know, even that's what Arjuna was saying, you know, oh, maybe I should just reject the whole material situation and go and, you know, renounce everything. But Krishna doesn't actually, but as far as I've understood it, tell me if I'm wrong, like Krishna doesn't actually say that that's the solution. You know, we have to have a synthesis of both worlds, you know, and then we can kind of go forward.
Yeah, like for most of us, you know, there's two paths. One is renouncing the world, and one is interacting with the world. For most of us, we're going to be interacting with the world. Going to be. Even if we are like monks in the temple, for example, still many of us are going to be like preachers, and they're going to be going to universities and going to programs, and you know, they still need to drive cars and still need to interact with the world to get the message through. But more than that, for most of us, it will become a mix between life in which we might get married and have a family and have a house, or, you know, and we have to then pay for things, and might be kids, they have to go to school, and that is the reality for most of us. That's really then interacting with the world. We have to then find a balance and a way in which we can keep our spiritual integrity, keep our practice, but at the same time also, like, well, whatever we want to be to the world, if we really want to be like sort of strange example to the world, you know, sort of then of course that might be our choice, but it would actually be nice if the world sees good examples of Krishna conscious families. You know, that people could say like, hey, my neighbors are Hare Krishna devotees. They're such lovely people, and they invite us for meals sometimes, and they invite us for the chanting sometimes, and it's so wonderful. I mean, that would be a really good outcome of interacting with the world. If you work a job, and you know, you're approachable, and people can ask you questions. And like the project I serve at, Govinda Valley, is a yoga retreat project. We have devotees living there, staying there, who are serious in their devotional practice. And we have residents, which are like long-term volunteers. They have a practice which is more yoga-based, with kirtan and prasadam and things like that. And if they want to, bhakti practice, that's their choice. They are guests there, and the guests, they just come to, you chill out, have a few days off from their hectic life. So if I interact with the guest, I don't start a conversation with, "Have you read the Bhagavad Gita?" Don't do that. I go, "Hey, how are you?" And if in the conversation something comes up, it comes up in a natural way, I might say, "Oh yeah, you read the Bhagavad Gita? There's a really nice point here." So, but again, like for somebody else, it might be something else that works. Like there are people for which a renounced works. And like Udo was saying before, like, we have these examples in our movement that are, they're doing it. That's wonderful. And I think it should always be available to those who want it. I think we need to improve in our guidance of people, see where they're at, rather than us trying to push everybody into a particular direction.
Yeah.
Like we're one and we're different at the same time.
Mhm.
And we are very different, including as devotees.
Yeah, that's the bit.
Right? We're very different in our so many ways, and we're very similar as well. But that's the wonderful thing
Well,
that's our
that's the
philosophy.
beauty of it.
Yeah, it is. Hopefully, we can continue to have unity and diversity.
Mhm.
Right? Have many different projects that people can come to. The project I'm at, it's like I said, it's very yoga based. Suits many people. It doesn't suit some people. Some people, a temple or the temple ashram just works, or the Hare Krishna approach, so to say, just works. So that should also be there.
Yeah, it should be like both is there. Not that one is like there, other one is good, one is bad. That we need both.
You shouldn't have a class war.
Yeah, it's like if you're not in a anyway, that's the whole other thing. So
Yeah.
Rahul, you're free to speak. Thank you, Nick. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Nick.
Sorry if I interrupted the conversation.
Sorry?
Sorry if I interrupted the conversation, the previous one. I'm
Okay.
finding it tough to stop myself from expressing my gratitude to both of you for organizing such informal talk and keeping it Krishna conscious as well. And it's very, we can say Guya Makhyati, kind of very heart-to-heart talk, if I were to put it. It was very nice. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. First, out of curiosity, I would like to know, I have realized from my own practice, it's been around a decade or more, roughly. But I won't even take credit for even one moment of it, doing it on my own self. It has been due to the grace of the devotees, the relations, as Patrick Prabhu told, like he met a devotee, Krishna devotee, and got introduced to the temple. We all have so many options. Maya has so many attractions for us to keep us engaged. And I thought to share one point from my life. Like I grew up in India background, and I went to the Netherlands, studied my master's there. So I was kind of intrigued that how you moved from the Netherlands and decided to stay in Australia. Netherlands was quite good a place. I felt myself. I found good relation with the devotee. But now I realized I was thinking about the point of the human side to this, keeping that human perspective intact. I was initially in a more strict kind of with monks in India. They were, the rules and all. And then I got to a more, you can say, a human approach with the devotee in the Netherlands, more relaxed with the rules. There is a gradation when even Krishna mentions it in the Bhagavad Gita, the 12th chapter sequence verses. So I could really appreciate that point which you mentioned. I was just, if I were to ask anything, it's out of curiosity. Two questions: how you maintain this relationship for so while, both of you, Urugaya Prabhu and yourself. And second, if I travel, I get an opportunity like to meet people. Like I was in Vietnam some months ago. I met people, especially, I learned bit of Dutch. So when I meet Dutch people, so Angenam and, Groetjes, Dankjewel, and little bit I do that. So they kind of form friends. They invite me back to the Netherlands, but I say, oh, it's not so easy. But somehow I'm maintaining touch with them, kind of friendly, and people love me for being a good person. But I never spoke to them about you read Bhagavad Gita or, I've not been, I feel myself quite timid in terms of preaching. When I said people are out on a vacation, like people you were mentioning about Thailand, the Maya Bay, people have come to enjoy. And if I tell them about Krishna consciousness, I doubt if I'll be spoiling their, vacation. Thank you, Prabhuji. Any ideas, if you could give me, the Krishna, I feel is giving me opportunity to plant a seed in the heart of people whom I meet if I go out on a vacation or, so anything would you like?
Yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about, disturbing people's holidays and things like that. I mean, at least in my experiences, I'm also a little bit shy to go and step into people's worlds, but I think there's, how we say, like time, place, and circumstance, right? Which means, like Padma was saying, Krishna will give opportunities. There's always opportunities and situations and events, and he'll also give intelligence. And the thing is, like, you'll learn very quickly. Like, if your intention is to, like, share Krishna consciousness with something, like you have something good, you want to share it with others, you'll very quickly learn, because you're going to get burned if you're not doing it in a good way. Because you're going to step into someone's world and they're going to tell you very, very straightforwardly to get out of their face. So yeah, you have to become expert. If your desire is to share Krishna consciousness, you have to become expert. But it's one of the things that I think, and maybe Padma, you can back me up, Nick also, I think one of the things is like just you being like a wonderful human and a wonderful person will like radiate this also, and just be able to influence people. Just, you don't have to necessarily make like an extra endeavor. Like sometimes it's nice like to go out on the street and then try to stop people, and like I'm also doing this service and I like it, but not all the time. Like part of it is just like I had this experience when I went back to Australia after 3 years last year. I was with like my step family and like some of my old friends from school, and I wasn't like preaching to them. I was just being myself. I was just being me, just hanging out with them, just being like polite and kind. And naturally, because they're curious, just it comes up. Or what do you do? Or you were living, you were like Hare Krishna for so long. Like how was it? It just naturally came up. I didn't have to make any extra endeavor. Didn't have to force anything. And that was a very productive and healthy and nice experience. And also just the second part, like you asking about my relationship with Padma, it's like, when we have good people in our lives, we should just make a little bit of effort. Like whenever I remember some friend or something, I just send them a message. Like we live in digital age. Kali Yuga is so good. You can just, through your phone, connect with the whole world, right? So whenever I like remember someone, I just shoot them a message like, hey, how are you? And then maybe, I'm good, how are you? Yeah, I'm good. Nice to hear from you. And then we don't speak for 3 months. But still, whenever I remember them, we just maintain the connection, because when we have good people, we should really stay in touch with them. There's plenty of good people, but also sometimes it's hard to find.
Yeah, I agree that like if you want to do something like distribution, for example, or if you want to do something actively in terms of direct teaching, so to say, then yeah, I always say to people, you have to be available for Krishna, meaning you have to be physically and mentally available. If you're mentally and physically not available, if you're always busy with your job, or you're always busy with your relationship, you're always busy with sports, Krishna will leave you alone quite well. No, he doesn't need you in a sense. I mean, it sounds kind of harsh, but it's kind of true as well. Krishna can get his word out about He's not begging us, in other words. However, if we say to Krishna, hey, I want to give myself, I want to do something for you, please give me some inspiration, I'll be surprised that happens. Or you just look at what's happening around you, where you are, and to see what works for you. You could be handing out flyers for a kirtan night, or you could be you could buy 20 Bhagavad Gitas and give them to the people at your work. You can do so many different things. You can study a number of verses of Bhagavad Gita and then record a message about it and put it on social media. The other day I saw Russell Brand reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam on his Instagram.
Wow. I didn't
reading from the Bhagavatam. The bare-chested Russell Brand, Well, hey, there's going to be people looking like, what's he reading?
Yeah.
And the verse that he's reading is like subtitled on the screen. That's something. So yeah, just be like a few of the comments were like our purity and our just the goodness of us. That speaks volumes. And some people will know that you're doing something different. Now you're eating different, you're thinking different. And there's a saying, always preach, sometimes even with words.
That's great. I didn't hear that one before. That's really good.
Always preach, sometimes even with words.
And Kakul, she said, I believe compassion and a genuine effort to hear someone can make them curious to know if you have something to share about Krishna consciousness. So thank you for that. I think it's good to wrap it up because usually we go for an hour and 15 minutes. And also for you, it must be almost 10 o'clock at night. So I don't know if I want to open some more questions. I think if you have something you want to share, you can write to me or I'll put you in touch with Padma. I think it's good to end. She drank like 500 ml of water. So I think whatever 10 to something. So thank you all so much for your time and energy, especially Padma. This was really sweet and really nice. I'm super grateful to have you in my life. Padma, he's dropped his WhatsApp in there. If anyone want to connect with him, please do. And
anybody wants to drop me a message for free?
For free. So merciful. For free.
For free, yeah. It will be for free as well.
I was thinking to make a joke, like, about you said there's his WhatsApp. I was thinking to make a joke about some money or something, and then you said feel free, but I thought you said bore free. So anyway, yeah, my bad. So yeah, he's there. And yeah, keep your eyes for the next meeting. This was really nice. This was the first time I did this kind of conversation, so I think I'm inspired to do it again. Maybe we can invite someone in the future. We have so much to speak about also. Some things came up I wrote down. It's really nice. I'd love to speak to you more about these, Padma. But yeah, thank you so much. I'm going to finish the call and hopefully see you all again somewhere sometime soon. All the best and Hare Krishna. Stay happy.
Hello.
Hari Hari.